Welcome, friends, to another day of human design conversation. We have some friends who've been here before and some new ones. So for those of you, Kate, arriving who are new, we just kind of open the floor, share who we are, ask any questions. For a lay of the land, I don't know how your screen is. Robyn and I are generators. Kate and Sarah are projectors, and Samer and Andrea are manifesting generators. So got two of each today.
I wonder, Anj, if you wouldn't mind us starting with talking about having an open root center today.
I would love it.
Okay. So when you guys are looking at your human design charts, you'll see that there are shapes all around the chart. Each of those shapes is a different center. So we'll start our conversation today to just get things flowing with talking about the bottom center called the root center. So if you look at your chart, I'm curious to see those of you who have this center colored in, it's any color. Will you put a 1 in the chat box? And those of you who have this open, it's white, it's not colored in, will you put a 2 in the chat box?
I'll have to look it up, so just give me a second, I will.
Yeah, please take your guys' time. It'll be powerful for you to know ahead of time as we're talking, so you know which side of this you sit on.
Andrea, go ahead, Robyn, because I'm echoing. I don't know if you guys can hear the echo.
So we've got 1 with a defined, colored in, center Kate. So I have a defined root center and Anj has an undefined root center.
Andrea was asking, if you look at your chart, the very bottom square is your root center chakra or your root center.
Yeah. It's the very bottom square. I'm actually going to show you guys a picture here. Let's see if I can just zoom. My Canva is being, oh, I can't share. It's okay. I will put a screenshot of this into the chat instead, because I don't want Anj to have to worry about it while she's walking to like change me to being the host. But this will help you guys just have a little visualization, this like a little cheat sheet of the different centers and what each of them stand for, like in the most basic ways. Let me find where did that picture just go? Okay, so those of you who have it defined, Andrea's, yours is not colored in, so yours is undefined, along with Anj, and Sarah and Kate's are defined. Okay, so I'm just sending this little picture into the chat for you guys to see. This is actually a picture of my chart. And so our root center, that lowest square that we have, this is the center that is what's called a pressurized center. There are several of your centers that are pressurized in human design. So in this center, you're either putting out energy or you're pulling in energy. So those who have it colored in, like mine is colored in, are the ones who are putting energy out. And those who have this white or not colored in are pulling in energy, kind of like a pool filter. And just like a pool filter, who you need to clear out the leaves and the debris that gets pulled up in it, you need to be aware that you're going to be pulling in this pressurized, adrenalized energy to get things done. And so those of you who have this open can often feel like you can't get things done. Like there's always stuff to get done and there's this pressure on you mounting all the time. You may feel like you're grasping for ways to get things done, like making lists and putting deadlines on yourself and just feeling an immense amount of pressure until it explodes out of you in some fashion, like whether you end up in burnout or you end up yelling at your spouse or just completely shutting down on yourself, or living in this state of constantly feeling like you're not enough because you can't get it all done. And this is in part because you're pulling in pressurized, adrenalized energy from outside of yourself, from people who are defined here and are not sitting in a space where they're feeling that pressure, except from like a normal level of pressure that they feel in life or from their other open centers. So one of the things that's really powerful for those of you that have this undefined and or open is to link arms with somebody who has a defined root center. And so this is something that my husband and I put into practice. I have a defined root center and he has open. And he has a quite stressful job of being like an orchestrator of making sure houses get built. So while he has a very autonomous position, it's very dependent on if other people are doing their jobs. And so when they're not, it's stressful because he can only control so much of what's happening and having to mitigate all of that. So we found him getting to a space where he was overflowing with this pressure every day and then coming home and not having much space for his family because he was still full of all this pressure, and he would implode on himself and kind of get into burnout a lot because of this. So one of the things that we implemented is him calling or even just texting me when he's feeling those pressures mounting, because calling, connecting in, whether that's through a phone call in person or even a text message, can help you to have temporary definition to that space, making it have that pressure have a way to come out. So if you're looking at that picture that I put into the chat, and you can see that my center is defined and I have a couple of channels that are defining that space. The channels are these lines that go from one shape to the next. So on mine, you can see that from 58 to 18 is defined as a whole channel, 53 to 42, and 60 to 3. So you can look at these as channels that are open to constantly be moving that pressurized energy out of that one space. So it's not just stuck like a pressure cooker that's just building and building and building and building until it has to release that energy somehow. And if we don't have healthy ways that we're releasing it, it just explodes out in ways that, like I said, land us into burn. So when you connect in with somebody who has the center defined, you get temporary definition where they have definition. So whether you're able to flow your energy out of these specific channels that I have, or like you can see there's some hanging gates that where you might have the other side of that channel where you're able to flow the energy out. So in some fashion or form, connecting in with somebody who has a defined root center will deeply help you to not have so much pressure on you. And connecting in with somebody with a defined root center could help you feel grounded, can help you feel like you can just feel your own shit instead of everybody else's all the time. So this is something that I was bringing up to my husband this morning, and reminding him of that pressure that builds up, and also talking to Anj this last week. We've been talking a lot about her having an open root center and how she might be feeling the pressures from everyone in her family and everyone in her community, and how powerful it is for her to lean into me, lean into somebody else that might have a defined root center, and just release some of that out in a more productive way than exploding the energy out. And you may have found that you already have found somebody in life that does that for you. And if you look at their human design chart, I'm sure you'd be surprised that they have a defined center that you have open that allows you to feel more grounded in that energy.
Yeah, I just want to add in, as the open
root, like it was super helpful. Maybe 10 minutes before this call, Robyn's like, hey, I just had this conversation with Glenn and he said that I could offer this to you. So I'm giving you permission. And I was like, okay. And I just, bleh, like it felt so good to feel literally this pressure releasing just to speak all the things that I'm holding on to. And as I was voicing them dissipate and how they were feeling, because it helped me categorize it and be able to see it rather than just feel this overwhelming pressure without, it's like, imagine a pressure cooker and inside there's like 10 vegetables boiling and popping and moving and you don't even really know what's in there because the lid is on it tight because you're trying to just hunker down and keep doing stuff because you have things that you have to get done. So it feels very supportive. So thank you for sharing this little piece. Andrea, I see you, friend. If Javier has a fine one, you guys could chat.
Yeah, I was just looking at that, and he has like, if this is the right one, he has so many undefined. He only has the heart one, I think, defined, which makes sense. I don't know, but yeah. So am I getting it right that if someone has root center defined, kind of like that drive to get things done is like coming from them, and undefined means like you're receiving that pressure from others, so it can be difficult to like handle all that.
It's like you have your own pressure to get things done. You just don't have it all the time. It's more transient. The spaces that you're open, you are able to be temporarily defined when you're connecting in with others. Or there's, to not get super complicated, but there's transits in human design that like planets are moving and sometimes it gives temporary definition. But for the most part, human design is here for us to work together like puzzle pieces. So you're meant to connect in with somebody who has that space defined to help you flow your energy and get things done rather than have to do things all alone, all by yourself. The way that we're all brought up to be told, if you want to get something done, go out and do it, hustle, do it all. If it's like a one-man show, that's not actually how we're supposed to function. So it's not that you don't have stress and pressures that you're experiencing on your own and putting out. It's just to be mindful that that center for you, when you're alone, when you're not connected in with somebody who has a defined center, will continue to build up pressure, like Anj just said, in the pressure cooker, until you connect in with somebody who gives you that valve to release the pressure. So like instead of just the pressure cooker exploding the energy out, you open that quick release on the top and it all like more efficiently comes out. So people with a defined root center, we still feel stress and pressure. We're just able to flow that stress and pressure out more purposely on our own because of that definition and it being connected to these other spaces where energy can flow.
Great, thank you.
Another way that you guys can release this stress and pressure when you're not able to connect in with somebody who has a defined root center is go put your feet on the earth. The literal electromagnetic connection that you have with the earth and the transfer of electrons will help to diffuse that energy out very similarly to how connecting in with somebody with a defined root center can help you feel. Okay, Sissy?
Thank you, Robyn.
You're welcome.
Robyn, I have a question. Oh, Anj, did you want to say something?
Nope, go for it.
So as a projector, I don't generate energy, but I have a defined root center.
Not
And
true.
so, okay. I am like, feel like I hear me in conflict. So help me understand this, please.
So when you're a projector, it's not that you don't generate energy. It's that you don't have consistent access to life force energy flowing through you all the time. And good for you, because if you're a projector having that amount of energy flowing through you all the time, you would not feel good because your system isn't meant to be a generator. So you put energy out into the world, you're just putting energy out from different spaces in your chart rather than that sacral life force energy. And instead, when you connect in with a generator or you're in a space where there are other generators, you're borrowing that connection to the sacral energy to be super efficient and get things done, and then get the heck out of that generator field, out of that sacral energy that will make you feel overwhelmed if it's flowing through your body for too long. The projector is the most efficient type, but only in these short bursts of efficiency. And then you got to, like, if you think of yourself as an eagle that comes down to grab its prey, that's your burst of sacral energy that you're borrowing, that you're using. And then you're like, I got to get out of here and go back up to my perch and just like watch the world from my vantage point up here. And then when I'm needed, I'll come down on that big burst of life force energy, come down, do what I need, and then go back and rest again. Where the generator is constantly putting out and in that energy field from that sacral life force energy.
Thank you.
So you said your root center is defined. Yeah. So then you have this energy that is more grounded in being able to take that adrenalized energy that's around you and flow it out, either flow it to your splenic center or to your emotional solar plexus center. If you have your root center defined, then one of those other ones is connected. So for you, is it your emotional solar plexus or the splenic center that's defined? Which like triangle on the side of the
Yep.
chart?
Hold on, let me pull it up again. So my splenic is defined. My sacral is not.
Yeah, your
Is that what
sacral.
Okay.
What about the emotional solar plexus, that other triangle on the opposite side of the splenic center?
I don't know. Hold on, let me look. Okay. So defined. The other triangle is undefined.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your connection here where you're flowing out some of that pressurized, adrenalized drive to get things done is flowing into the splenic center. That's all about intuition and fears. So if you find yourself getting caught in a fear loop, thinking like what ifs, and being in the low vibrational space of intuitive connection, then for you, I would still go and do something like grounding, putting your hands on a tree, your feet on the earth, or even using like grounding gear if you're in a space where it's really cold during the winter months, can be really powerful for you. But you're able to do that without needing to connect in with somebody else to release the pressure. So I guess from like my point of view, there are times that I feel pressure building up inside of me. And for myself, I know that I'm out of alignment somewhere as a generator. What have I said yes to? What am I plugging my energy into? That's truly a no. So you can ask yourself those kinds of questions. You know, have you bitten off more than you can chew with certain things? Did you, as a projector, plug your energy, which goes into like one person at a time? Did you plug into something that's really feeling like a no, and that's draining your energy and making you feel pressure to show up for that person or that project or that thing? So when we're starting to feel out of control in any of our centers, it's a red flag to just notice like, what have you done to clear your filters, to clear your open spaces? Are you doing energy work? Are you grounding yourself? Are you moving your body? Are you creating art? Are you doing things to move this pressure or these sensations out of your body? And then also look at, where are you out of alignment? Are you, as a projector, are you sharing your beautiful insight with people that are not receiving it and are not landing with you? Instead of sharing it just with the people who are connected and lit up with you. As a projector, are you trying to be a generator and do, go, go all the time? And if that's the case, like the call maybe is just to deeply rest and disconnect and feel how much more powerful you are on the other side of your deep rests, and honoring that you work with big bursts of energy and then lots of rest, big bursts of energy and then lots of rest.
Awesome. So we have Kate and Lauren who are new here. Kate is a projector 1-3. Lauren is a projector 2-4, and her husband is a projector 1-3. So I just want to open up the floor to our projectors. I know, Sarah, you are too, but you asked a question. Kate or Lauren, if you want to ask something, and then we'll just keep bouncing around, but I'm inviting you to take the mic.
Thank you
Hi.
for the invitation. Oh, Lauren, you go ahead. I'll go after.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. I was just going to say the same thing. Thanks for having me here. I just learned my chart yesterday. Luisa Fernandez sent it to me. I thought like I definitely was like, I was telling her, I feel seen. Like, this is crazy. It's pretty spot on. And like, I'm always like, just like you were speaking, I think it was Sarah we have similar, I'm also the splenic. And it's like, I do get burned out so easily. And I'm like, why am I so inconsistent? Like, I've opened up to Luisa about that as well. Like, I just feel like the inconsistency, and now I'm thinking that I'm just putting my energy maybe to where it's not being received potentially, I'm not getting the feedback, and then I get the bitterness, and like, so it just kind of opens up my eyes. So I really enjoy learning more about this. So thank you.
And Lauren, rather than thinking of it as inconsistency, allowing yourself to sit and being a projector who does not have to be on all the time, going, doing. And the more you lean into those ebbs and flows of your energy and deeply receive rest during that ebb, the more efficient your flows will be. And I'm not joking, like, you projectors are the most efficient beings when you allow that ebb and flow cycle and really lean into rest. I mean, like, even build your schedule as best as you can in life around, like, maybe you work for 2 weeks and you take 2 weeks off and you only see clients for 2 weeks, or, granted, you have to be able to build your life around this. And that's also a big invitation for everybody here. If you're plugged into things in life that really do not serve who you are, get like radically into creating a life around how you are aligned. Like, the projectors are not meant to have a 9-to-5 job, period. End of story. There's no way you can push yourself into that box and be fully in alignment as a projector. So what invitation does that give to you? Because I'm sure all of your souls are desiring to have careers that do not ask of you to be on your like game every single day, especially those of you projectors who are also parents.
Yes, I was just gonna say, like, I am a stay-at-home mom / like, health coach when I can find the time, or, now that like you mentioned that, like, I definitely am gonna lean more into that. Like, I've already been giving myself, since like learning like the menstrual cycle and the phases, giving myself permission to rest like during menstrual phase. And like sometimes I feel like, I don't know if it lines up with that, but it just, instead of beating myself up about like not being consistent, like you said, just really lean into it and rest and just give myself permission just to go ham, like when I am feeling that energy.
Yes.
Is there a certain time, or is it like just a feeling? Like, is it like, that's the thing too. But I'm sorry to go back to like the stay-at-home mom part, is like my job doesn't like stop. You know what I mean? So that's the challenging part. Like, it's the most rewarding job, obviously, but just a 24/7 one, if you will.
Definitely 24/7. Well, one thing for projector parents is that you deserve help. And if you haven't been able to receive help, that's something that's really hard for a lot of us, is to actually receive and be in a space of help. I just deeply invite you into seeing that you aren't meant to juggle it all alone. So if there's a babysitter that can come once a week, if there's a partner in the home that you can offset some of the work onto, or have a couple of hours a day where you go get solo time. One of my dear friends who's a projector, after hitting a terrible rock bottom in her life, has implemented with her husband, who's a manifesting generator, that every day when he gets off of work, she has a non-negotiable boundary now that she gets 2 hours to herself to stare at the wall, to study spiritual aspects of things, to read books, to just take a bath, like whatever it is, it's 2 hours. Don't care that you just got home from work, husband. I am on the clock 24/7, and I deserve 2 hours of non-kid, non-husband, non-anybody interactions. Because for the projector, you have to have a break from the generator field. So if you have generator children, generator spouse, like you need a break. You can't constantly be in that sacral energy without burning out, because you're not meant to flow that amount of energy through your circuitry all day, every day. So beautiful invitation for projector parents to set some boundaries and ask for help and receive it. Now, this was not at all easy for my friend. And her husband was pissed about this. I've been working all day. I shouldn't have to have the kids. You should be helping me. And it was not an easy conversation, but it's made her be able to be herself so much better, even at the contention of her husband having to do his own work around supporting there. So I think that's really a powerful thing to do. I can't remember the other question that you had, Lauren.
I'm not sure. Not sure I remember either. If it comes to me, I'll definitely drop it in the chat. But thank you so much. Amazing advice. I do have a supportive husband. He's so busy, and I'm like, I really should lean into more like getting a babysitter and just like knowing that it's worth it. Like, you know, he's my last kid. So I'm like just trying to soak up every moment, but I can't be my best self if I'm not getting that me time and that rest.
Yeah, and you'll be able to show up for him bigger and brighter and less spread thin if you did take that time. And it's almost like counterintuitive because of the deep ingrained way that we are raised in this culture. But the quality of time that you're spending with him is much more important than the quantity of time spread thin. Like you're about to burn out all the time is not the same space that you can hold for your child or your partner as that intentional quality time, because you have poured into your cup first. Yeah. Another thing about projectors that we've talked about a couple of times is sleep arrangements for projectors. So you projectors are not meant to sleep in the field of generators. And this can be an interesting dynamic for partners that are not both projectors, or people who co-sleep with their children who are not projectors, or even just non-sacrals. So we've got the sacral beings are the generators and the manifesting generators, and then everybody else is non-sacrals. So if you're a non-sacral type, you will be better, you will be healthier if you at least part of the week sleep alone. For some people, they can get that separation by sleeping in a separate bed than their partner. But this is also something that was very hard for me to explore with my husband, who's a projector, because I was very wrapped around, if my husband is not sleeping with me, then there's something wrong with our relationship. Like, what does that say about our connection? And it was much harder. It actually just took trial and error and seeing that my husband deeply needed to get out of not just my generator field, but we have 3 generator children and we co-sleep. So we've worked out a dynamic where, so I'm not just like left in the co-sleeping situation myself and have all 3 kids to just be my responsibility. He helps me get everybody into bed, fall asleep for a couple of hours with us till everybody is like deeply settled and I'm settled. And then he'll move to the downstairs bedroom to get some uninterrupted sleep without these big generator energies around him. Because from his description, like we still feel big even when we're sleeping. And that's because of the difference in our aura types. The generator types, our auras are big and encompassing. They can literally span the planet when we're lit up. So you're never really out of the generator field. Even if you're sitting across the room from us, especially if we're lit up, you're in it. You're feeling our energy. Where the projectors, their auras are very pinpointed, like a laser. You guys focus in on one person at a time. That's how you're meant to. So your auras don't encompass us, but our auras encompass you. So just, keep that in mind with sleep dynamics as well. If you're a projector parent who also co-sleeps with generator children, you need a break from them. And I know this is so hard especially for those of us who have like the mindset of like, we're here to be mothers. We're here to pour into our children. It's our biggest, most beautiful role. But to give yourself permission that you still are being that mom or that parent, even better if you take a little bit of time to have just to yourself. Yeah, especially if I think one of you is a 2-4, Anj said.
Lauren's husband is a 2-4.
Yeah, so that's even more deeply important to you to have alone time. It's where your biggest genius will come out. It's where your best flow comes from, is going within and having alone time. Oh
Kate,
yeah, definitely look at your kids' charts. I was just looking through the chat, like absolutely. That's what really brought me into human design. Like the first couple times it was brought to me, I was like, oh, shut up. It's like another Enneagram thing. Like, I don't care what you think my personality type is. I was very turned off by any type of personality test thing that you answer questions and it tells you like who you are. Because I've not really agreed with any of those tests over the years. And I just had like a wound there. Finally, somebody brought it to my attention that we could look at our children. And I was searching for a way to be the best mom to my son. And like looking for like a book, a wisdom, something that I could be the mom he needs me to be specifically. I'm like acutely aware that I don't want to give my kids any more wounding than like, we already are going to as their parents. Being somebody who comes from like having a deep mother wound myself. So human design, it literally lays a plan specifically for your child of how you should parent that child. Not all children is specific to that individual child. And that was really what pulled me in and got me like obsessed with human design. And then seeing like, oh, wow, if this can be so pinpoint for each child, then it can be like that for each partnership, for who you're connected to in your business, in your friendships, in life, and in every way. Yeah. So powerful to look at your children.
Kate.
This is so wonderful, such great reminders. I kind of got into human design like last year, but it still feels very esoteric to me. So it's really wonderful to hear all these examples and other people's experiences. It's clarifying a lot.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask specifically about the thing that's been most confusing to me as a projector is, what does it mean to wait for the invitation? Because obviously I'm sure that's a question you get a lot, because it just contradicts pretty much everything in how we're raised, our culture, like work, all these things. So I was curious to hear your thoughts about that.
Did you want to say something first, Anj?
Oh, I was just unmuting to flow. I mean, I can say something and you can add on if you want.
Sure.
I think for the invitation, you're right. It's not necessarily something that we're taught to do. And the big thing is you have a limited amount of energy. And so if you share, but people are not willing to receive, it hurts. Because you have the ability, projectors are like the lighthouse or like the North Star. You guys have a very clear vision, or as Robyn said, the eagle. You see things that us generators can't see. We're like, let's go, keep going. Da-da-da. We have all this energy, but you have this very clear view. And so I think for some projectors too, you can fall into doing too much because it seems so clear. We have a friend, Kathy, who comes on and it's so obvious what needs to be done that she ends up just stepping into her sacral and using too much energy because it's obvious to her, right? And she isn't getting an invitation. So she's just taking on this idea of having to do it herself. But as far as what it means to wait for the invitation, it will light you up. It will make you feel seen by someone else if they invite you to share something. Because then, like Robyn said, that single focus, you're willing to expend the limited energy that you have because someone is desiring it. It's just a way of nourishing you in alignment. I will say for my friend Kathy, until I knew she was a projector, I thought, wow, she's such a great friend. She just listens all the time and she doesn't step in to share. And it's, I think, a subconscious thing until you're aware of your design. But when I said to her, she's like, yeah, I have plenty I want to say. No one's asking me. No one's in, that's the invitation. If people aren't just saying, hey, Kate, what do you think? When you hear that, oh, I'll tell you, it's very clear and I want to share. So it doesn't have to be a formal invitation. It doesn't have to be, even for myself, knowing you and Sarah and Lauren are projectors. That's why I said, like, do you want to ask a question? That's an invitation to you. And that feels good to you because yes, you do, but you may not try to interject over all the generator energy that's here.
Yeah. And I think that it's hard for a lot of us, everybody who's not a manifester, we all have to wait for something before implementing our strategy. So your strategy is like how you move through the world. And for you guys, that's waiting for the invitation. For the generator types, it's waiting to respond. What we're waiting for are aligned opportunities to come in. You're waiting for aligned invitations. You're waiting for somebody to say, Kate, I see that you really shine in this one area of life, and I wonder if you might share with me more about this area of life. So you're being recognized. The recognition is really important to know if that invitation is right. So, and also, just because somebody recognizes and invites you in doesn't mean you have to say yes to that. This is where you get to be really intentional of like, no, you know what? That doesn't serve me. I don't feel like answering that question. And I absolutely do not feel like guiding you. So as Anj mentioned, you guys as projectors are here, like she said, to be that lighthouse. You're here to guide humanity. The projectors are not here for just themselves. And this is a really big difference between generator types and the other types, but specifically projectors right now. Generators are here for themselves in the now. They are here to do what lights them up and only that, and just keep following that. So that could seem very different to a projector who is like watching these clunky beings just be kind of self-centered and just do. And it without the awareness that there are other beings that are different than us who need that invitation. It can just be this difference between projectors and generators, though we're supposed to have this really beautiful relationship where you're there to guide our energy to do. So you get to just sit up on your perch and every once in a while just come down to the generators and say, hey, this is what I see. This is how things should go. Now go. And then you get to just go up and rest. So it's like an orchestrator here, rather than having to do all the different versions of the work. So if you remember that you're a guide, you're literally here to shift humanity through your guidance. You're here to be the new rulers of all of the energy types. We used to have manifestors in this position and they rule with force. And they're like the kings and queens and emperors that we've heard from historical recollection, who just like they do it how they're going to. They don't take no for an answer. And humanity is shifting and has been shifting to a different way of moving all the pieces together and all coming together in humanity. We were gifted projectors to be the new leaders, to guide us from a space of sovereignty, to guide us, not ruling over us. So your roles are huge. You each are here for something enormous to guide others. And that is uncomfortable for a lot of you to step into, especially those who have been conditioned to think you're generators. Some of you feel irritated. I don't want to guide people. I don't want to be the leader of guiding people. And I think that's just gunked up conditioning that's in different spaces in your chart for you to really explore. because we need you guys here. So when you are waiting for the invitation, if you just think of it as, instead of it taking everything that comes in, every invitation, and having to do like a generator would just do things, you get to be really intentional about what you're saying yes to. And did they recognize you? Did they say like, oh, Anj, I see that you're so into this human design stuff. You feel really lit up when you're talking about it. Will you share more with me? So there's recognition and invitation. And you can play with the invitation as well. It doesn't have to come out of somebody's mouth. It could be a post that you see that feels like it's recognizing and inviting you in to explore that more. It doesn't need to actually be like a, mailed invitation, like, hey, we would like you to be a part of this thing. And this is part of why it's so powerful for us to know everybody's human design that's around us, because if people know that you're a projector, then they know this, they'll start communicating with you differently. When they really want to get into that guidance with you, they'll recognize you and invite you in to do so, which then, like Anj said, will make you feel really recognized and like, hell yeah, I want to tell you what I see. Because what you guys see may seem so obvious to you, and it is not obvious to any of the other types. It's special how you see things.
I just want to add that, Kate, if you ever have a review or something at work and have the opportunity, I think this could be a really powerful thing to point out of just like, hey, I work really well in this way. And I say that because I have two friends that I have been working with who are both projectors. When I first got into human design, I had just started working with them. And I was like, oh, this is such helpful information for me. Because if we're meeting on Wednesday, I make sure to send an email on Monday. And I'm like, hey, these are the things that I want to talk to, and I'm going to want your opinion. One of them has emotional authority, which I know you have. And so that little bit of time gives her, right? Emotional, you need like 3 to 5 days. It gives her time to kind of flow and realize, oh, she's going to want to know. And I'm giving her the time and space that she needs. So it's really powerful when we know what we need to be able to express it. And I don't think it would come across to a generator as, I know, I think it could be something that if you're in a situation of giving feedback or, in that kind of review state, it could be really powerful to say this would work really well for me.
Yeah, it's also helpful for the sacral types to have this information and not get so annoyed with the amount of time it takes you to want to respond. This is something that always annoyed me about my husband. Like, why is he slower with everything? And then he could be super efficient in those big bursts that he has, but I'll ask him to do something and he's like, doesn't have this get up and go to him. He is more like, because he can see like, but when I get up to go to the bathroom and I'm already getting up to use that energy, I can grab that thing and do that thing that she talked about instead of getting up right now and doing it. But the process that's internal to you guys is not obvious to us generator types. And I think it was Louisa asked about like, what does this waiting for the strategy look like for the other types, like for generators and manifesting generators. So the manifesting generator and the generators, they're here to wait for something to respond to. And when I first learned this, like waiting, I was like, what the hell? I don't want to wait. Like I got lots of things to do. I'm not going to wait for things to come in for me to like be aligned to do them. I really had to trial and error through this and experience this, like a lived experience of how insanely magical your life can get as a generator type when you start playing with this. So we're waiting for the universe through our huge, big, juicy auras to pull in, to magnetize things to respond to, because the generator types live in the now. Like we are here to function in the now. Generators don't do good if they're sitting in the past or sitting in the future too much. We are here to generate that energy in the now. Our energy doesn't go into the future. Our energy doesn't go into the past. It's here now. So the more we're sitting in that energy and we start watching that everything comes into us to respond to. And these can be little things. Your partner can say, what do you want for dinner? And that can, as a generator, be too expansive of a question to respond to. But if they're saying, do you want tacos or sushi? It'll be easier for you to respond to as a generator because we work with yes, no, this, that. So you're responding to everything. And when that thing comes in to respond to, so this is like the story I like to share of how powerful responding to only the yeses can be. So let's say you are thinking about doing a podcast. An out of line generator would just be like, I'm going to go start this podcast instead of playing with the universe a little bit here. And that, like, you can start a podcast, but it might, like, hardly anybody's watching it. You can't think of the things to like talk about on the podcast. It's just like not flowing as beautifully as it could. If instead, when you get this knowing in the quantum, like, maybe I want to do a podcast. Okay, I'm putting that out, like beaming my heart out to the universe that I really am feeling like I want to do a podcast. Let's see what starts coming in that I can respond to. You might see that then somebody reaches out to you and says, hey, I've been thinking about doing a podcast. Would you like to do this with me? And listen to your yes, no, feel your yes, no in your body, and watch how, even though you wanted to do a podcast, when that person asks you, you're like, oh no, like nope, maybe I don't want to do a podcast. And then somebody else comes in and says, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? You're like, well, yeah, but that's not a fuck yes. Like, I'm not feeling like totally lit up and pulled to this. And then a couple weeks later, your best friend comes to you and says, I just was in meditation and I thought about the conversation we had the other day, and I was like, this should be a podcast. Do you want to do a best friend podcast with me about human design? And then you're like, yes. If you had started without waiting for that thing that lights you the fuck up to say yes to, you would have been out of alignment with trying to force doing this podcast, because you're feeling it in the quantum. It's there, it's coming to respond to. But if you don't wait a little bit for these aligned things to respond to, then you're just pushing, like you're a manifester who's just starting things on your own. Who the manifester is the only type that doesn't have to wait for anything. They are here to initiate these pathways. So have fun playing with your strategies, if you have one, if you're not a manifester, and see how much more in alignment you are when you are waiting for that strategy, waiting to respond, waiting for the invitation. And I'll say too, that even though it's not like written in stone with human design, that the generator needs recognition and then respond as well. That recognition, it feels like this beautiful feedback from the universe that you're on the right track. So if, you know, after this call, somebody reached out to me and was just like, man, I just love sitting and listening to you guys share about human design. That's feedback from the universe. It's like, yeah, I'm on the right track. Like, I felt lit up. This felt like a fuck yes to me. But when the universe through somebody else brings me that feedback, it keeps me in alignment.
I wanted to thank you for all that, Robyn. I just wanted to add, since we have some new projectors, that Ra, the man who shared human design, who brought it forth, is a manifester, like Robyn said. But when he offered his courses, he gave a great discount to the projectors because he really understood what Robyn said. You projectors are here to guide us. And so if that wasn't really heard by all of you, I want to share that even the man who channeled this modality recognized you projectors and gifted you in his offerings through that.
And Ra was a manifester as well. And I'll challenge any but one who thinks that human design is just, I think you use the word spiritual or ethereal. It isn't. This is actually human design before we had a lot of information about DNA that we've gotten over the last 20 years. Ra channeled that human design is built into you on a DNA level. And it's proven, if you go into the depths of human design, this isn't just astrology. This isn't just woo-woo. It's actually built in solid science to the system. Genetics is part of the systems that build human design. So is ancient systems like I Ching, which is like an ancient Chinese way of looking at your life and seeing all these layers to yourself, that this system is built with ancient technology and modern technology, so modern that Ra was the first person to recognize some of these things within this system that later in the journey of human design were proven by science to be correct. So it's not, you can use this in a completely non-spiritual way. You can literally just use it for your 3D self and how you're moving through the 3D world, without involving any type of spiritual aspect to human design. And so if your husband, Kate, is the manifester, I would show him some source video from Ra about being a manifester, because hearing it from a manifester who's not trying to tell him what to do, because they are not meant to be told what to do. And the more you try to tell a manifester what to do, the more angry they're going to get. Anger is their not self, and their anger can be insane. Like their anger is very angry compared to the rest of us who like don't feel anger in the same way, because their anger is supposed to move them out of being out of alignment. They're not supposed to like sit in the anger. The anger is a red flag to say like you are out of alignment, but use it like a white fire that fuels through, and instead of burns through and destroys, transmutes and creates. So instead of telling them what to do, going with curiosity to the manifester about what you're experiencing and just sharing it, rather than saying you need to look at this, but instead invite them in a way that just kind of leaves it on the table. And if they want to look at it, they want to look at it. And if not, just keep sharing little tidbits. Oh, I learned this about a manifester, or, share a video from Ra, because he's a man. He's a bit gruff. Projectors can be, manifestors can be a bit gruff, especially an ego manifester, like Ra. But the way he shares about human design is beautiful. I think because it's source information, it's not coming through the grapevine. Like there are so many people who have written books and taken human design and turned it into their own version of human design. And there's beauty in that as well. And I don't know if it's just my 6/3 that deeply desires source information. I feel like it collapses timelines for me to learn when I'm learning from source versus learning from down here. And then I have to find my way back to the source information. So that might be really powerful for him.
Robyn, we both misunderstood because he's a generator, but she was saying he's a good manifester, like he's good at manifesting.
Oh, well, somebody
Someone needed to hear that. Yeah.
manifestor information. Yeah, so I get that too, because manifesting can be looked at from all different points of view. If you're looking at the universal laws that are more scientific, it's easier to break that down in your logical mind. You also could probably see in his human design chart that he has more logical sides of the brain, sides of how we work defined than the more creative sides as well.
I think it's helpful. You said that anger is the manifestor's flag. And so for anyone, projectors, when you start to feel bitter, generators, when we start to feel frustrated, that is our warning sign. If you can recognize it, then that gives you a moment to pause and go, okay, where am I out of alignment because I'm feeling bitter or frustrated or angry? So I think that's a really important thing to know about what your strategy is and your not self is. The not self is when you are not invited in or you're not responding, then you have this other feeling.
Yeah. And a lot of the times when that frustration or anger or disappointment or bitterness is happening, it's also because you need to go rest. If you can think about a toddler who just wants to keep going, they miss nap and now they're just a wreck. And you're dude, you're crying, you're throwing toys, you just need to go take a nap and then you'll feel better. And that also is a reminder for all of us. We'll each identify with our rest periods differently. I call mine cocoons because I get forced into them kind of like a caterpillar who like is like, okay, it's time for you to become a butterfly. Like you have to get into your cocoon. And a lot of times if I don't listen, it's hard for a generator to slow down. We're like a freight train going really fast. So if that freight train just turns, we're going to crash and burn. We have to like slowly pivot ourselves. So when we're changing our minds about things, when we're pivoting directions, it doesn't happen just like that. We just need more time. So when you start to feel frustrated or you're not self bitterness or something, like first see if it's just because you deeply need to rest and go into your own cocoon. And the cocoon, the resting, if you look at this, was really powerful for me to look at this. It's not resting like lazy, like you're just laying there doing nothing. The rest is like a cocoon. You're literally resting as you're molting into this next version of yourself. On the other side of that rest, for all of us, will be a burst, whether that's a big efficient burst for the projector to get things done or a longer burst of energy for the generator. Like it's a misnomer that even generators have energy forever. Like we need a break too. And so when you just honor, like maybe it doesn't make sense. Like I just started this project and I was in such a flow and I was feeling so good and everything was coming together. And then suddenly everything is pissing me off and frustrating me. It seems like nothing is going right. Like, red flag. I need to rest. And that doesn't make any sense to our logical minds because I just started a project or I have a deadline in 3 days. But if you just rest, there'll be such a burst on the other side. And also a different version of you on the other side, like the next level of you, the next level of you, the next level of you. So when I started looking at it like that, I'm like, bye, I'm going in my cocoon. Like, just tuck me in. And I mean, sometimes I don't catch it. And then my body will start to shut down on me. And this is different for all of us. I will get a migraine. If I don't get into my cocoon, that's the one thing that will take me out. My migraines, it's like they're not just pain and pressure. I have all these auric symptoms and like I can't see, I can't hear. It's like literally like get in your freaking cocoon. So the more aware you are of what those signs are when you need to rest, and the easier you just go into your cocoon or whatever you want to call it, hibernating or whatever resonates with you, the faster you'll come out on the other side and the better you'll be at whatever it was that you were working on the other side of that.
Beautiful. Does anyone else have a question that they wanted to ask, or anyone, not anyone else, anyone?
Maybe something for next time, but not this time since we're at the hour. How does it work within business? And how can we use it to help our businesses?
Yeah.
So think about that one for next time.
Y'all need to start talking human design.
I
Yeah.
know. I'll share just a tiny bit here because the kids are sleeping, so I can keep talking for a little bit and it'll be recorded, Sarah, if you have to jump off. There are human design interpreters who only focus on helping people in their business. And so there's different ways that you can go about this. You can look at small teams, you can look at individual, like these two people and how they can work together best, or you can do what's called a penta, and that's like a group of 5, and then do groups of these pentas to see how everybody is flowing in their dynamic together. A lot of this stuff that when you're first getting into human design, and a lot of the stuff that we are even talking about on these calls are the outer rings of human design. They're the surface, they're the easiest to understand. But for example, there's depth to human design that you'll probably not hear about unless you're studying human design. For example, every gate is expressed differently in each person because every gate has 6 lines in it that you're either defined in several of those or one of them. So it makes you express that gate uniquely. There's also an entire health system that's built into human design about the way that you're meant to utilize your energy, like to eat, the way your brain utilizes energy. There's an entire system of what's called rave psychology. And you go into like who you are in your dream state and what you're doing in your dreams. I mean, so there's like so many more layers of human design. And when you're looking at this, you can see and you can play. Not that there's like some perfect being out there who's meant to be your partner in work, but I can give you some examples of my own lived experience of like working, for example, my first run with my Healy business. I started my Healy business with one of my best friends who's a manifester. And after talking about this device that I thought would be amazing for all these different ways in my life, she was like, felt my lit upness about that and was like, yeah, this feels good. Let's go. And we bought some Heelys and started our business together, sharing about the Heelys with the intention that we were going to earn higher level Heelys together. And after maybe a month or so of her being there with me, she's like, man, I don't like this. I'm leaving. Goodbye. I don't want to do this. It doesn't feel good. I don't like these people, whatever. She left. And I kind of sat there for a second being like, oh my gosh, like I wanted to do this with somebody and now I don't have this person, which then allowed somebody else to come into my field. A projector who guided me to see this really unique way that I could grow my Healy business by helping her seed Canada with Heelys before they launched in Canada. And so then I started working with this projector who very much guided my big energy a lot of the time to do things for our business, to create things. But at a point in time, it became very hard for her to have a generator partner because and I'm quite an insane generator with like I say that with like so much love for myself, but I have a lot of definition where I put out exuberant energy into the world. And I create a lot of stuff just because I get a sacral hit and I want to. Some of the times I use it, I can't tell you how many courses I have built that are just sitting there because I was like, oh, this is amazing. I have to teach people this. And then that kind of sacral energy fizzles. And I'm like, oh, well, like, I don't know, maybe one day I'll do something with that. And it got hard for her because she kept comparing herself to a generator. And I would remind her all the time, like, please go rest and stop looking at what I'm doing as like meaning you're not doing enough. Because when you come in on a big, beautiful flow, like you create so much momentum in my life. But when you're just trying to drag me down because you can't do as much as I'm doing, then like that got to be a point of contention between us because then made me feel bad. Like I'm too much, I'm too big. This person is telling me to stop, to slow down. And I don't like to be told those things. But then it was also beautiful because before I started noticing my cocoons had like symptoms that would come before I needed to cocoon, she noticed. And she'd be like, hey, like, don't you think you need to like slow down and rest? And when we got our language right with each other, and she started telling me instead of stop, slow down, I am overwhelmed because you're too much. And instead we got clear on the times that it was like that for her, she needed to go rest. But when she could feel my cocoon coming in and she would say it to me gently, like, I think it's cocoon time, it didn't feel so jarring to me and like rude. Like, don't tell me that I need to stop when you're, when I'm me. So there's all these different dynamics that you can use in play. And to be honest, when you're starting a project, like a brand new project, completely, like I didn't use frequency medicine. I didn't sell anything on the internet. It was extremely important that my manifestor friend got that path paved for me because generators aren't here to pave new paths, but manifestors are. And then the generators meant to come in and do the work behind that path to keep that path going. Then when you involve a projector in who's here to guide the team, they're here to be the manager of managers. Like you're here to not be in the work the same way that a generator is, and instead orchestrate things. Tell them like, hey, Robyn, you can flow your energy over here. We need you to make this ebook. We need you to do this call and flow the generator's energy instead of trying to like control it or stifle it. And then the reflector is here to be the barometer for our community. So if you have a reflector in your business, it's really powerful You can look at them as like an oracle who you would go to ask questions about the health of your business and how things are flowing. And when they feel things are out of alignment, things are out of alignment if they're part of that community. And so you can listen to them kind of like a canary in a coal mine. They're like able to sense that things are out of balance, out of alignment, well before any of us can. They like literally feel it in their openness, in their centers. And then you can get deeper than just the energy types and look and see, for example, if somebody, like I have a channel that's all about taking ideas, creating ideas and flowing them, whether they're for myself or for others. So if I'm sitting as a consultant, it also would be powerful for me to work with somebody who had a channel that is on the other side of that is like logical ideas. Mine are like big creative ideas, and bring us together to take these big creative ideas and match them with the logical ideas to be the consultants for that team. So you can get really in depth with channels and centers and gates to see how people match up as well. Yeah. So hopefully that gave you some stuff to mull over, Sarah.
Might have to dive deeper into that a little bit later.
Yeah, and through like any of you that have 3s or 6s in your profile type, like go have fun and experiment with this and actually go have the lived experiences. After going through and having a manifestor as a partner in business once, and then a projector, I then got very clear that the next person I was calling in had to be a generator type. No offense to any of you. I love to have you all, the projectors, like I need you to be like on the side guiding me. I love to be guided by a projector. Like I don't even know if I can articulate how good it feels for an aligned projector, like one that I am connected in and letting connect with me to tell me what to do with my energy. It feels very powerful to be guided in that way. But I want somebody who was lit the fuck up. I wanted somebody who could match my big energy all the time and not tell me I was doing too much and not tell me to slow down or that my dreams were too big or whatever. And so not saying that all projectors, manifestors, reflectors would make me feel that way, but through my lived experience, as the next trial I wanted to do was finding a partner that could match that big continuous energy. And then in comes Angela. So that's me, like that, is encompassing of waiting to, respond to the right things. And as each of these individuals came in, it was the right thing to respond to. And I got so much from that connection in my business, in my personal life. And then for me, because I am deeply experiential in my process, now it's time to like move on and see where each of these energies can kind of live. So I'd rather have like a business coach be a projector. I'd rather my business partner be a generator type. And I'd rather a manifestor tell me where I can like go pave a new way for a business, and a reflector who's a dear friend that I can connect in with to say like something feels out of alignment in my life. I can't pinpoint what it is, because they'll be able to help you discover what's out of alignment when you're really not seeing it yourself. You fell asleep. Okay.
That's what I need. I need somebody who's going to get lit up and like take over the business end of my business. So I can go create and have fun.
Well, Sarah, maybe you and I need to talk a little bit at some point in time, because I think this has come up a couple of times. That's like something I do as well, is help in that capacity with people's businesses, run my creative energy on the behind the scenes kind of stuff while they're at the front of the house doing, creating, using some of my energy to help other people create, but from that behind the scenes place. Yeah.
Love that.
I'm just
I think
curious if
Summer
there's
had a question.
I'm just curious if there's any like I don't know what to call them, but like a formula or matrix that like we can tell the best partner for projector could be a generator, the best consultant for projector. Like this is in a business aspect, because that would be an interesting thing to just look up people through their human design and make a partnership with them based on their profile and business. Or maybe look up clients just with a certain human design, like have a just CRM of clients with a one human design because we can collaborate well together.
Maybe you can develop that, Sammer.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, like there's aspects of you that are in that logical space that can see that there is an equation. To me, I feel like, of course there is, because there's an equation to figure out what your human design is. So why wouldn't there be an equation that you could figure out to see how people like fit together from like a mathematical point of view of looking at that equation? But I don't know of one that is already there.
Okay.
So it's more of just like an interpreter. If you're kind of thinking of like, if we're talking about interpreting like language, you have a person who can interpret for somebody who's speaking another language, but there's also apps that interpret the language now. So behind that app is an algorithm, right? That's taking the information and shifting it to make sense to the other person. So I would think that there was a way, if you had that knowledge and background of like how the algorithm or the equation in the background was working, you could figure it out. You could reverse engineer kind of people's connections to maybe find like or create like a software that could figure it out without the interpreter being the one that is looking at the two different charts and seeing how they flow together.
Okay, so is there any like a reference of all the interpretation of all the human design mix and match somewhere other than the massive human design book, the library? Like a digital form?
So like a smaller book that tells about
No,
each
no.
of
I need like the most explained version so I can think about
the most
LLM that I can feed
version.
all this information to and train it on just interpret all the human design for everyone, and then we can ask it all these questions. So just come up with results without have to engineer all this thing.
Yeah. So you're looking for something that has like the most human design information
Yeah,
that can be fed into like AI to learn it.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll send the book that I would use if I was gonna feed AI anything about human design. I'll make sure I put it into the 333 chat so you can see that book. Yeah.
Okay.
Or even you could, like I was talking about source information, you could take videos of Ra, the gentleman who channeled human design, in his teachings and feed that right into AI, which would be even more powerful than the book that I'm going to send, which is a source driven book that I'll send to you.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Just give him all of the raw clippings for all the different designs. There's 5 designs, then all the different profile lines, all the different centers. I don't know how you would algorithmize the open versus not. And what was coming to me, like, does it matter, Robyn? Because when you get your human design chart, you have all the information on the right, the bottom being your defined channels. Like, is there more power to connecting people to fill more channels? Is that how it works, or not necessarily?
There's like a small kind of chart. If you like, when you come together with another person, if you define all the spaces, what that means versus defining like having 2 left over, where some are like more challenging relationships if everybody is coming, in and defining certain spaces. But I don't think that that's necessarily, it's more nuanced than just the spaces being filled in.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more nuanced than that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what you create, Summer.
I'm excited about it. Yeah, I'll play with it and see what would come up.
When you
Yeah.
need guinea pigs, we're all right here. Remember who was on this call. Snap a picture. Oh, love it. Sammer is a 1-3, Kate. So he has, and Lauren, you said your husband is a 1-3 or you're a 1-3. Let me see what she said. But the 1-3 have this deep desire to like know and go fully in to understand all of it, the depths of it. And the only way we can do that is through experimenting. So Sammer's like, okay, he's got a trial and error. He wants to know all the information he can have to plug it in to make it work because he has to know, he has to get to the root of it. We need to
Yeah.
get to the root of it, Sammer.
Yeah,
All right. Well, as we know, we could always keep talking and talking and talking, but we just want to say thank you for showing up today. Come back. It's every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, and just, yeah, keep leaning in. This is such a valuable modality, encompassing a lot of modalities. So thank you all for coming and asking your questions so that we can keep learning. It really does help to have stories versus just to look at a chart and hear things when we have connections to different people's experiences. So,
Yeah,
and
thank you all for being here and some of our new people that showed up today asking questions. Us generators love questions to respond to. So thank you.
absolutely. All right, friends. Tomorrow and Friday are magic portal times if you want to come join. Actually, Friday, I may have to just cancel because I'm going to be
Yeah,
in
let's just not do Friday since you'll be out of town. Then you don't have pressure on you to like figure any of it
open
out.
up and figure out. Okay, so just Wednesday this week, and then we'll join back next week for our. We're gonna get Healy calls Monday, Thursday going next week too. I just need to get through. Actually, Friday and Monday we're off because I'll be gone. So next week we will. Let's just hold on. Take a deep breath, Anj. Tomorrow, Wednesday, Magic Portal, and then next Tuesday, Human Design. One
Awesome.
more call this week.
Yes. All right,
All right.
guys. See you
Same
later.
link for all of them, Kate, whether you want to join the Magic Portal, it's the same link. All right. Bye, friends.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Atlas. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you later.
Both kisses.
Oh, thank you. Got it. Bye, buddy.